Welcome back, everyone. We are here with Timothy Cross Sr. And Timothy's going to be here to talk about mental health and addiction. Timothy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. I am glad and honored to be here.
Glad to have you.
Yeah.
Timothy, I want to start off. What made you get into mental health?
Well, I don't know if it was really a choice or, well, it's just mainly part of my own struggles. And we talk about the book I wrote, but mainly my own struggles as a substance abuse counselor. But before that, what got me into mental health was my struggles of 18 years being a recovering addict. And then, of course, understanding the correlation between mental health and mental stuff, what people go through. And so it probably really wasn't my choice, but as a result of going through some things and getting in this field, God kind of made the choice for me, and I loved it, and I've been with that pretty much ever since.
So I feel like there's a little bit of a chicken and egg question with this, but I would just like to know your opinion. Which do you think comes first, mental health issues that cause addiction, or addiction that causes mental health issues?
Yeah, and many of us in the field has got that question is debated in 1,000 million times. I don't really, I'm not sure in terms of, I think it's kind of, some of it can be both, I guess, from my perspective. There are, well, let me go it this way. There of course, clients and people that I've known, and there's a population that have mental issues and use drugs to cope. And then, of course, there's a lot who use drugs and then end up with mental issues, what we call co-occurring illnesses. So you got an addiction, and then you have mental illness, bipolar, schizo, a variety of things. So which one really came first? I'm not sure. There's some medical issues that would probably point you probably to both sides. So I'm not really sure if there's a real clear standard answer on that.
Yeah, I mean, it is an interesting thing because, you know, just as human beings, people are curious of certain things. So sometimes it starts out that way, you know, like, and it is I don't know, in your years helping people, if you have found that it seems like more of like, you're born with a genetic thing, or because some people will experiment and then stop, and then they have their college years and then they stop, you know, like, so, or there's people who can't do that. So was that more of a genetic thing in that?
Well, there is some clear connection between some hereditary things that people have passed down, or I don't know where it's passed down, you know, clients that have had parents that had bipolar, schizo, various mental issues, and those were now medically, you know, obviously I'm not a doctor, but there's a definitely connection there.
Right.
And I think even in, I think one of the main, was it Drew Barrymore? Yeah. That was one of the first ones who, from a celebrity standpoint, was made a connection between her father and her great grandfather, and they did some tracing down, not only in terms of alcoholism, but also some mental stuff that was going on. And actually, at one time, she talks very very openly and very candidly about that. I remember that because that actually helped me in following her story. So there is, there is a connection, I believe, in terms of the mental issues that can be connected and hereditary that can be passed down. Yes.
Timothy, let me ask you this. Being that, we're doing this at-home version of our show because of the pandemic and everything going on, there's always been issues with addiction and abuse and everything. Why do you think it has really exploded right now? With dealing with this? Because, I mean, it's a huge, noticeably big difference between before the pandemic and now regarding those issues.
Yeah, very, very, very good question. And trust me, on a daily basis, I'm helping and dealing with that and helping people through that. So let me say this way. First of all, one of the big things of support when it comes to people that are suffering, that are struggling with addiction, is connection with a sponsor, and there's a connection with other people that's recovering. And so when those meetings, I remember when they shut down the first thing that was like a panic was like, oh my goodness, because there's meetings, there's AA meetings, there's NA meetings, there's faith-based meetings. There's meetings all the time, and those are a tremendous, tremendous part of a person's recovery. And so when those are taken away, then the person has to go back and kind of face some things in a home. For example, if you are struggling with addiction, but you are now living with a verbally or physically abusive partner, so now you can't go anywhere, and so now you have to deal with that. You can't, normally a person would be able to go out and they'll be able to go and call a sponsor or call a mentor or whatever. And so a lot of that has not happened. Child abuse, I understand, is skyrocketing, but there are many, 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 many people that have relapsed in these last 2 months as a result of not being able to get to their support system. And that's one of the reasons why the good thing about it is the many, many 24-hour Zoom meetings, recovery meetings, NA recovery meetings that have happened, and that has helped a lot. But people in recovery, that one-on-one contact is really, really important. And and then they're forced maybe sometimes because they they're stay home to deal with the very thing that they are struggling, that's contributing to their addiction.
Now, you said the 24-hour Zoom meetings. Is this something that you're participating in? Are you still?
Absolutely.
Okay, you're still out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, all day. And I'm the positive thing about this is like there's 24-hour meetings. There's on Facebook, of course, there's they have AA pages, NA pages, and then we post, and they post a lot of 24-hour meetings. And the great thing about it is that there are meetings that occur all around the world, and that's a good thing about it. I've met so many people that in every single part of the country, Pakistan, Russia, and whatever. And so that's the good thing about it, going through the same thing. And so the 24-hour meetings that's the good thing that has happened out of this pandemic crisis.
That's great.
So you mentioned support systems and just connecting with people. What else helped you to overcome your addiction? Where did you get that strength from?
Oh wow, that would almost. I give the short version. That almost take another. I'll probably take another meeting. But I give you the short version. So the short version is mainly. I grew up in a Christian home. I was a Christian and a preacher and a pastor, still am. And I got caught up in, it was a gradual process. Before I knew it, I was off into addiction and using crack cocaine in particular. And so I think your question was, how did I get out of it? It was a process, just like it was a process. As I share with clients and teach, it's a process to get in. It's a process to get out. And the main thing that recovering people that we struggle with that at the beginning was accepting the fact that you have lost control. Why? Because all your life, most of us have had control of everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I tell them kind of bluntly, you know, you didn't like the job, you got a different job. You didn't like the car, you got a different car. You didn't like the girlfriend, you got a different girlfriend. You got divorced. You had control of everything, whether people liked it or not. So now, when you come to this little powder or this drink, and somebody says that, well, you know, you got a problem, you just like, are you kidding? You know what I've had control over? I can control this. I'm sure I'm right. So they don't realize that. So with me, it was the same thing. I just couldn't accept the fact that, you know, I got this. You know, I can handle this. Now the latter part of your question was, how did I get out? Mainly, it was God. It was not religion, just my relationship with God. But it also was accepting the fact that programs like NA, programs like Celebrate Recovery, New Life Recovery, and the 12 steps helped me to begin the process to heal and to recover. And it was long, painful, and it's a continuing journey. And that's kind of it. That's the nutshell. Short version.
So, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and in your recovery process, at some point, you were inspired to write a book. Yeah. And I would love to hear about your book, Musings of an Ex-Crackhead. It's a huge accomplishment to recover and to write a book.
Yeah, I started Musings of an Ex-Crackhead. Actually, it started out as one of the good things about recovering people, and even as a counselor, was journaling. You know, you got to journal. You got to talk about it so that you can look at where you are and then look where you came from. So mainly, I just started writing. And well, let me put it this way: the original idea was when I went through treatment many times. There were some things that I missed, and I'm like, wow. But my prayer to God was like, if I ever get through this, I want to be able to write a devotional book in particular for people that's in recovery. So I could, you know, because I know when I went through, I said, wow, if I had this to read and I had that. So I began to, it started off just as a devotional journal. And then my good friend and editor by the name of Diane Reeder up in Detroit, and so I just put down my story at the beginning, and she says, oh, no, we're gonna change this. You're gonna put your story. And she encouraged me. I'm like, I just want a devotion. Like, no. And so I wrote basically how I got caught up in it, how I started, and you know, and I also wanted to show in the book that addiction definitely is not a respecter of persons. And I think on every aspect, I think if we look at that from whether you're in politics, whether you're in religion, whether you're a preacher, whatever, you know, addiction does not discriminate. And so I wanted to show that. You know, I was a preacher and a pastor and was preaching on Sunday morning, and I would end up in the crack house at about 8, 9 o'clock that evening. Some people just shocked me, look at the city. I'm like, yeah, you know, that's what it was. And so, so Musings of an Ex-Crackhead is devotional, and it's my story at the beginning, and then it was mainly written for people that are in treatment, so they can have something and let them know that, look, you know what, you're not alone. God and other folks here, and I'm here if necessary to help you through that. So that's kind of it in the gist.
That's great.
Yeah, I'm really glad you said what you said, because a lot of people don't realize that addiction does not discriminate. It does not see color. It does not see income. It does not see status or anything else.
As a matter of fact, let me racially, let me share with you a story. How when I was at a treatment place in Aurora. It was my last place, called Wayside Cross. And so I remember a guy that was there. He wanted me to come to this faith-based program called Celebrate Recovery. And so it was way out in Oswego. and it was a big, nice church, and it was pretty much 99% white. And so, you know, he kept asking me, this guy was black, and he kept asking me to go. And I'm like, man, you know, no. And then I finally told him, I said, listen, I'm quite sure that those little nice white people out there got a good intentions. But look, I'm a brother from Detroit that's on crack. And, you know, I don't know if they can relate to me because I don't know what they're talking about. Anyway, I finally went and sometimes I get emotional if I talk about it. But I remember a lady there, she was a white lady, and she was on us. She talked about her addiction, and I don't even know, I can't remember what it was she was addicted to. But I remember sitting in an aisle, and I remember God speaking to me. He says, what do you see? And I say, you know, I see a white lady talking about, you know, got us crying and talking about what she's went through. And he says, no, what you see is pain. And God says, there's no white pain and there's no black pain. Pain does not have a color. Never forgot that. You know, there's no white pain, no Puerto Rican pain, no Mexican pain. Pain is pain. And so that was years ago. So I never forgot that. That taught me. And so around the spectrum, you know, people, that's what we relate to. You know, you going through pain, whether you're in the suburbs and you going through abuse, or you going through drinking, or you down on 79th Street, you know, the pain that you go through is the same pain. So that helped me a lot. So that taught me a lot about the journey and the continued journey about addiction.
What should someone do if they have a friend or family member who has either mental health issues or addiction issues?
Well, the mental health one is sometimes can be a little more difficult because, well, let me put it this way. A lot of times people with the mental health, whether it's schizo or just bipolar, they may be using for a different reason. So in other words, they're using to not necessarily get high, they're using to feel normal. And so the medication is a big issue, and trying to get them to convince them to take their medication. Now, unfortunately, sometimes the spectrum can be getting them committed, or I don't like to use the word committed, or getting someone to be part of turning their life over, you know, their affairs, to get them to take, depending on what the issue, what the mental health issue is. And then, of course, there's a lot of friends of mine who realize now, being clean for a while, that the correlation between like bipolar, you know, have in that. And then, oh, by the way, there's also there's meetings for people with what we call NA meetings for people with co-occurring disorders. So in other words, and because there used to be a stigma, you know, people would come into the rooms and then everybody else was talking about addiction and getting off of heroin, getting off of cocaine, but there was no venue for them to talk about this other part, you know, taking the importance of taking your medication for bipolar, the importance of taking your medication for schizo disorder. So that's kind of a long answer, but I think in terms of depending on how serious it is, with the mental issue, in terms of getting them to take the medication. Now, in terms of just substance abuse, or somebody's using, everybody's bottom is different, and so some people have to the thought of losing everything. The wife comes home and says, "If you don't stop drinking, I'm losing you, or I'm gonna leave you," or the kids. That may be the issue that has to happen. I have a relative who just called me about one of her children and she asked the same question. You're like, Tim, you know, you're the one in our family. You kind of extra. What can I do? And I just told her, I said, you know, right, there's nothing you can do because they have to make that choice. They got to make that choice. And then we said, well, we'll be there to support them, because if you do it for them, sometimes it's just like, you know, I'm just doing it for family. So it's a painful process. But and they need people that's going to stick with them through this journey too. Because a lot of times family members and other folks don't understand. They're just like, just stop, just get yourself together. You know, and I'm one who believes in the disease model of addiction. So I mean, I believe that it is chronic, it's progressive, and it's fatal. Actually, that's the medical definition for any disease. It's chronic, meaning that it's not going away. It's progressive, that it's not, if it don't get treated, it's going to get worse. And if it don't get treated, the last one is fatal. So yeah, if sometimes, you know, you can just, if it's a teenager, you can just make them go on terms of going to treatment. But unfortunately, for others, it's got to, most of the time, it has to be their choice. Of course, unless they get arrested and then they're forced to go to treatment.
Hey, Timothy, as we close out this segment, what would you tell someone as far as what to do right now if they're dealing with some type of addiction, maybe an abuse or something, and they really want to get help, they want to change? What would you suggest that they do right now?
The first thing I would tell them to do right now, if there are any, whether it's phone or computer savvy, I would tell them, encourage them, like, look, get to some Zoom, some of the recovery meetings. You got your choice. You got NA, you got AA, you got faith-based, and you need to talk with somebody and share, and you need to be around people that's struggling and going through the same thing that you are going through. The other thing is, if they really wanted to get help, then they need to get into some of those meetings and contact somebody like me. Part of my ministry is helping people get to treatment, and then, you know, we can get you into a treatment place, and if you're serious, and start that. But the main thing is they gotta take that step. And the first thing I would say, get to some meetings, and then of course, and at the meetings, there's so many kind of loving people that will share and get phone numbers. How can I help you? And whatever the city they're in. So that would be the first thing. That's the first step.
That's great. I did have one question actually for
Sure.
How you were saying the family members, how sometimes don't want to believe it or not as supportive, or they don't know how to support this first step of their family member getting treatment or their friend getting treatment. Are there places you can direct those people to as like a group to kind of help through that, or?
Yeah, each NA and NA and AA have groups called Al-Anon and Nar-Anon, and those are alcoholics for people who, like, if you're married to an alcoholic or if you got a family member. So those are support groups that actually meet just like NA groups, so the family members can go and learn about addiction. 90% of the time, most of the family members, they don't know. Once they know what to do, what not to put up with, and how they can help, they can help start the process and just learn. What I did with my family after I went through some things, I taught my family about addiction, and then I also told them to be able to identify when I'm lying. Now, of course, some of that came back on me.
Sure.
But it was good. It was good.
Yeah.
I told them, I said, if I tell you this, trust me. I'm not saying this now, but I'm going to be lying. Now, of course, when it happened, I didn't like it.
Yeah.
But you got to be able to
Yeah.
do that. You got to be able to do that. Yeah.
Great.
Well, I tell you, we can talk about this for a long time. And
Yeah.
I really, really appreciate you coming on the show. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day to, to discuss this very important issue and, get some insight and also maybe some tools or some insight or directions for someone who wants to get out of this. And I really want to thank you. And we really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Anytime, be able to help, anything you need me to do, Lawrence, let me know.
I appreciate that, Timothy. And don't go away. We will be right back.